Basically, my career in terms of overseas service started in 2000. After graduating from college, my unit deployed to Bosnia, and I was stationed there for about 9 months at Eagle Base, which is outside of Tuzla, Bosnia. Then years later, went to Kosovo and served at Camp Bondsteel for a year, and was there under the leadership of the 40th Infantry Division out of the California National Guard. And then in 2008, I had the honor of commanding the 102nd Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, which is based out of Jackson in Afghanistan. And that was an awesome opportunity to where I had the opportunity to be able to serve with the 101st Airborne Division out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Outside of that, just did some annual training missions in Tegucigalpa, Honduras, in Normandy, France, in St. Kitts and Nevis, and a few other places. And so it's been a wonderful ride to be able to see other countries and how they live, other militaries and how they serve and do things. And I'm just blessed to have the opportunity to continue to be able to serve for almost 29 years now. I served at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan during the majority of 2008. And so what I remember about that experience was that it was a tough mission. Unfortunately, we had a lot of service members that fell during that deployment to Afghanistan. And what I will always remember is how we honored our fallen service members at Bagram Airfield. The way that it's set up is that Bagram is about, it had a road called Disney Drive, which is about a mile long. And then you had the airfield where all of the airplanes would, come and go. Whenever we would have a fallen service member, during the ceremonies, everybody would come out for that ceremony on each side of the road, which spanned a mile. And so the fallen would go down the road in a Humvee, and as the Humvee passed, we would salute. And then at the end of the road, it would be loaded onto a C-17 coming back to America. And so that's a vision that I will never forget. And I would just like to remind everybody that freedom is not free. And we really have to be thankful for the freedoms that we have, because we have to preserve it and we have to defend it. And that's why our military is so important. All of those different countries are unique in their own way. And one of the great things about America is that we have the freedom of speech to be able to tell a story in the manner that we would like to tell it. But in some of my travels, in fact, in a lot of the places, they're very restricted in terms of what they can say, when they can say it, who they can say it about. And so that's one of the things that, of the many things that I love about our country, is that we have the freedoms that we have to be able to do that. And it's a shame, because a lot of these places that I visited are very beautiful in terms of the people, very beautiful in terms of the landscapes, very beautiful in terms of the potential stories that could be told, but unfortunately a lot of them cannot be told because they don't have the same type of freedoms that we have here. I had the opportunity in 2004 to be able to travel with the 102nd Mobile Public Affairs Detachment, which is based in Jackson, to Normandy, France, to cover the 60th anniversary of the D-Day invasion. So we were fortunate to be able to basically live on Omaha Beach at the Normandy American Cemetery and cover the events surrounding that big occurrence in history. And so when we were there, we had numerous dignitaries, not only from the United States, but all over the world, that had descended upon that one location. And it gave me the opportunity to be able to grow as a journalist, as a communicator, because you had so many VIPs to be able to interview and talk to. And after that experience and seeing what I was able to do and how I was able to grow stronger in terms of my writing, in terms of interacting with senior people, it really gave me a lot of courage to be able to take that next step and be able to do even harder things down the road. The sight of the cemetery is breathtaking. Whenever you step onto that ground, it's just, you just feel a powerful feeling that comes over you because of what happened there during World War II. There's so many crosses out there on the graves as far as the eye can see. But then from a smell perspective, it's right on the water. And so you see, you can smell the sea, and then you can almost visualize what our service members went through whenever they were there years and years ago in order to make sure that we have the freedom that we have now. And so I would encourage anybody to put that on your bucket list as far as something that you need to see, because you really, really understand the price and value of freedom whenever you go to a place like that and then understand what the history was in terms of what happened there. And it just really changes your whole perspective about a lot of things. You know, I use stories all the time. And what's really important to me in terms of being a leader is my faith. I rely on it constantly in terms of being able to lead and lead in the best interests of the people that I'm responsible for. And so I have a set of biblical principles that I try to adhere to. One of the biggest ones is to see others as more important than yourselves. And so with that one and many others, whenever I'm mentoring junior soldiers, I tell them that whenever you become in a position where you're going to have to be responsible for someone, you're going to have to see them as more important than you are. And I tell them that it takes sacrifice in order to make sure that your folks are taken care of, because if you don't take care of them, they're not going to take care of you. And so a lot of times I'll come up with just different instances where I've had to, you know, either do without or not take advantage of an opportunity so that I can make sure that someone else's career is enriched and that they're able to move forward. My favorite biblical related story is how I became the commander of the U.S. Army Engineer Research and Development Center. And it's based upon God's word that says that we are to wait on the Lord and he will renew our strength. So I had been a lieutenant colonel for about 9 years. And I had gotten to the point where I was like, you know, I guess this is the end of my career. And I had kind of started thinking about retirement and what the next chapter of life would be. And so I made all these plans on what I was going to do, or if I was to stay in, how I was going to be able to advance my career and that sort of thing. And so I had gotten to a point where I was like, I guess this is it. But earlier this year in the spring, God came out with a plan that just was perfect. I was burning my leave on a tour that I had also at URDIC. And one day I got a call from the commander at the time, Colonel Teresa Slosser, and she said, "Hey, Chris, I need you to come to Vicksburg." And so I got there, and then she said, "Hey, congratulations, you've been picked up for full bird colonel." And I'm like, wow. And so even at that time, I didn't know where I was going to go, because as a reservist or a guard person, you have to have a slot to go into once you get selected for promotion, and I didn't have a slot. And so weeks later, I ended up getting a call from the leadership at URDIC, Dr. David Pittman, and Major General Richard Heitkamp, who is the Deputy Commanding General for the Corps of Engineers, and said, "Hey, would you be interested in being the next commander of URDIC?" That is not something that was on my radar. As a public relations, public affairs person, I never would have thought that was even possible. But everyone, including myself, that looks at that situation says it can only be one who made that happen. And I agree. So it's all about waiting on him and his perfect plan. And so forever, moving forward, that's what I'm going to do. Mississippi is a special place. And one of the things that I like to do whenever I need time to think or just really, like I said, think about a decision, a big decision that has to be made, I like to take a drive. And one of my favorite places to venture to whenever I take a drive is going up to the Mississippi Delta from Clinton up Highway 49 North. There's not a ton of buildings or communities that are really big going up that way, but there's just something just really beautiful and special about the Delta that gives you time to think, that gives you time to really appreciate the state in terms of one of its regions that is very beautiful. And so some of the biggest decisions that I've had to make professionally, personally, have been on those drives down our beautiful highways and back roads in order to really kind of help me put things in perspective, bring my mind to, a calm state to where I can really think out and make a big decision. Every single time as I come back home, I see those beautiful Delta sunsets. They are so awesome because a lot of times you'll see cotton, right on the edge of the road, but then over the horizon, over the trees, you'll have these wonderful sunsets that are just these beautiful postcards all the way from start to finish whenever you go through that entire region. So that's something that I always remember, and I will always continue to make those drives in order to see those beautiful landscapes. I take great pride in my travels in telling people that I'm a Mississippian, that I've been here my entire life, and that this state has afforded me so many great opportunities to be able to serve our people here, but then also move beyond our state line to be able to serve others. And so at every opportunity that I get, whether I'm on an airplane, whether I'm at a conference, when people ask me about our state, I tell them all the wonderful things about us that make us special. We truly have talented people here who make an impact in so many different areas. And I encourage them to come here and see the great things that we have. We have tremendous athletes, we have tremendous writers, we have great military bases all the way from Camp Shelby to Columbus Air Force Base, all these great things. And so I would just invite anybody out there who's looking for an opportunity to see something new and experience something great to come to our state and see what we have to offer. And I think that they'll be impressed. I would just like our audience to know that in Vicksburg, Mississippi, we have a crown jewel that is known as the U.S. Army Engineer Research and Development Center. And it used to be known as the Waterways Experiment Station, and we call it ERDIC for short. But we have some of the most talented people anywhere in what I like to call Engineer City, because there's a large concentration of engineers within Vicksburg. And so I've had the privilege to be able to work with them over the past 3.5 years, and they do some amazing work for the nation and the warfighters. They do military engineering, they do civil works, we do what's called engineered resilient systems, geospatial, and installations and operational environments. And so what's also special is that we have great people there who are committed and passionate about what they do. And it's just really refreshing to see something as special as ERDIC in Vicksburg, in Mississippi, that does so much for our nation and our service members. My advice is to become a strong writer. Become strong at those things within the mass communication umbrella that, when you put them all together, help you to become a strong storyteller. Writing is so important in terms of what we do. And if you're not quite there yet, you need to take the steps now in order to ensure that you become strong in that area. Because when time goes by, you have to deal with things within life that could get in the way when you do realize that you're like, hey, I need to stop and go learn this, skill that really I should have mastered while I was in school. And so my next piece of advice is to be relentless. Be relentless in terms of reaching out for opportunity. Be relentless with going out there and finding a mentor that can help you to develop within your career and help you to realize the potential that you have. Because success is not a one-person show. And you have to be able to have people within your network that are going to help to guide you, help develop you, tell you the things that you don't want to hear so that you can truly absorb that information and grow in the areas that you need to grow so that you can also return that favor to those coming after you and make the field even stronger down the road.